Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are viewing this from in the world. Today, or this afternoon, I've got a couple of trees here I'm going to cut. A couple of old, well actually one's dead and one's nearly dead I think, but we're going to utilise both of those. We're going to cut these two, they're fairly large blue gum trees I'm going to cut here today. We're going to cut them with this 881, going to use that's about an 18-inch cutter bar I've got there. I'm hoping I can cut those two bigger trees with that cutter bar size, but we'll soon see, won't we? Anyway, let's get into the video. As you can see, I got pretty much 3 scars there, but I'm trying to get that out now. I'm going to get that scarf right out. Otherwise it's going to be hard to pull. I got a little bit here in the corner here. I'm going to get rid of that too. Can you see that there? No? Take a close up of there. Okay, so you can see me here with this tree. I'm trying to fall it to the right because it's actually leaning to the left there. So that means I've got to wedge it. I've got about 4 or 5 wedges here. It's going to fight me all the way. Usually in this situation, I'll use a wheel loader or skidder or something to push the tree off its lean. Makes the job a lot easier and a lot quicker and a lot less effort. But in this situation, it's too wet to work machinery, so I just have to use the old school method of hammer and wedge. So you can see me here, go through the process of doing that. And again, I said the reason I'm doing this is because the landowner wants me to fall this tree on the top of the other one that's ahead of this tree here. You'll see it shortly. And he doesn't want all the tops spread around the paddock. He wants the tops sort of bunched together if I can do that job for him. So you'll be able to see the process I go through here to be able to achieve that. Didn't want to fall over, huh? Right guys, well that's the finished product. You can see it's a nice chunk of wood, 72 by 68. That would be probably around about 3.5 cubic meters in our measurement. If you're in the US, I don't know, I'd have to work it out what it is in super feet. I might put that on the video, eh? Here you can see me cutting the scarf out of this next tree. Again, I try not to make the cuts meet for the scarf. I do that on purpose because I find it gives me more room at the back of the scarf, which makes the scarf more effective in my opinion. But it does mean that obviously the scarf is a bit more difficult to get out. I'm not sawing the scarf out as such. I'm actually have to use a hammer or axe or something to take the rest of the scarf out. You'll see me do that here now. But when I get it out, you'll see that the scarf is a lot more roomier at the back of it, where the middle of the wood of the tree is. And when you're using a short cutter bar like this one, it's pretty paramount that you do actually end up with a really good scarf in a tree like this. Otherwise, you'll never get it on the ground. But actually, I wouldn't recommend for the guys at home to be using a short cutter bar like this one to cut a tree of this size down. It's not recommended. It's probably not something that I would usually do either. Usually the best length cutter bar for this sort of application would be at least a 25-inch cutter bar, or possibly up to a 30-inch, something like that. But again, if you know what you're doing, you probably can get away with a short one on this sort of situation. Okay, again, this tree's not going to give up easy. It's actually leaning this time to the right, and I'm trying to pull it around to the left and pull it down the hill. The reason that I'm trying to do that is simply because it's going to be much easier for me to get to the top of this tree with the machine to pull it away from the stump. And you probably think to yourself, oh, I wonder why he's going to so much trouble to do that. It doesn't look that steep, but over the edge of that bank there is pretty steep. So it's just an easy matter for me. There's rocks and that all included in that hillside, so it's a lot easier for me just to be able to back up with the machine and hook straight onto the top if I pull that tree straight down the hill. But, you know, obviously it'd be a lot easier process if I was just going to pull it where it was leaning, and that again is to the right. Even sometimes the cameraman will throw me another wedge when I'm running a bit light on for wedges. Sometimes I use 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 wedges in this application. Really? Keep going. Okay, so if your chain's cutting really well like this one is, you can even use the chainsaw one-handed, as you can see I'm doing here with this chainsaw. Okay, so the fibres that you can see pulling there are actually, if you put your scarf in properly, are actually pulling from the stump and not pulling out of the log. And that's the way you can tell when you put your scarf in. Okay, so you can see this tree went exactly where it was intended to land, right in that hole in between all the regrowth trees that I was trying to save. And again, this was the perfect outcome for the direction of this tree. Again, this is an example of perfect directional falling. I got this tree right in the gap, right where it was supposed to go. Alright, to give you a bit of an idea of the comparison between the new 881 versus the old model 880, there are some things I like about the new model, and there are some things I'm not really impressed with at all. The things I like are that the chainsaw's actually, I feel, a bit better balanced, even though it doesn't weigh any less, and it's still rated the same horsepower, so its performance is much the same. It does seem to be better balanced and nicer to use than the old model one. Also, it's got a return to start stop button, which is spring loaded. It's good to use. Again, I'm not so sure about how long it will last. The captive bar bolt nuts idea that it's got, I'm not a real fan of, because I find it a bit difficult sometimes to line up the threads on the bar bolt nuts when you're putting your side cover on. Apart from that, the oiler, I believe, worked better on my old 88 model 880 than what this 881 does. It doesn't empty a full tank of oil for a tank of fuel. So that's one thing, again, I don't really like about the new model so much. Okay, so this tree I'm about to cut here is completely dead. Not really sure why it died, but occasionally a tree will up and die like this for no real reason, or no apparent reason. So we decided that we'll cut it. It's around about 2 kilometres further than what all the other trees are away from where I'm going to have a landing. So I've decided to snig this log with the Toyota Landcruiser after I finish cutting it, as you'll see soon.